R. McDonald case. It was after that, the investigation of this case, that I realized some of the serious situations that confronted our nation today. Helena told me that Dr. McDonald did not commit those crimes, that they were committed by her satanic cult group. And I said to myself, what's this all about? I don't know anything about Satanism. I read about it in the Bible, of course, and that's about it. It's all really quite by accident that I'm involved in these issues. In the Nebraska case, it's called the Franklin Cover-Up. This is the book here that John DeCamp wrote, by the way. It's all documented in there. And in that particular instance, they were taking children out of foster homes, orphanages, Boys Town. They were taking children out of Boys Town orphanages and foster homes and driving them to Sioux City, Iowa, 184 miles away, placing them in private jets, flying them to Washington, D.C. for sex orgies with congressmen, senators, and dignitaries. For sex orgies with prominent people, including congressmen, senators, and certain people in the White House. A guy named Rusty Nelson was taking pictures of them while they were doing this sort of thing. And so he had these pictures of these dignitaries who were involved in these nefarious sexual activities. Congressmen, senators, as I said. This international child kidnapping ring, I later learned, was out of Washington, D.C. It was very active, and the organization is known as the Finders. Among the many problems we have is the organized child kidnapping ring that's operating not only in Nebraska, but also in Washington, D.C. And I'll start with the Finders case. It has top clearance and protection in its assigned task of kidnapping and torture programming young children across the United States. Its specially trained government kidnappers are known to be sexual degenerates who involve the children in satanic sex orgies and bloody rituals, as well as the murders of other children and the slaughter of animals. The Finders is a CIA front established in the 1960s. It has top clearance and protection in the assignment task of kidnapping and torture programming young children throughout the United States. Members are specially trained government kidnappers known to be sexual degenerates who involve the kidnapped children in satanic sex orgies and bloody rituals, as well as murders of other children and slaughter of animals. They use a fleet of unmarked vans to grab targeted children from parks and schoolyards. In doing so, they use children within their organization as decoys to attract the victims close to the vans where they are grabbed by the adults. Same thing as Paul Benassi told me earlier. They then drug the children and transport them to a series of safe houses for safekeeping. Paul said that as soon as they get them in the back seat of the car, they put chloroform over their faces and they put them to sleep right away. They are then used in their ceremonies for body parts, sex slaves, and some are auctioned off at various locations in the Northern Hemisphere. If a pedophile or a practicing Satanist wants a blue-eyed, blonde-haired child, they can actually give an order out and they will get 5 or 6 pictures of a blue-eyed, blonde-haired child and they'll pick out the child they want and then they go kidnap that child. I have a report right here in front of me. And on February the 5th, 1987, the Tallahassee Police Department was anonymously called and there were 2 men, 6 children, ages 2 to 6, in the park. The children had been bitten with mosquitoes, fleas, and everything else, insect bites. They were dirty. They were not wearing any underwear. And all the children had not been bathed in days. And the 2 men who were well-dressed in a van, Dodge van with a Virginia license, and they said they were going to Mexico to a school for smart kids. The Metropolitan Police said they had an informant who talked about rituals that had been performed at the Finders location, sex orgies involving children, and there's supposed to have been an unsolved murder that was committed there. There were instructions on the impregnation of female members of the community, known as the Finders, purchasing children, trading, and kidnapping. There was communication for children, the transporting of children, London, Germany, the Bahamas, Japan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Africa, Costa Rica, and Europe. Marion David so-and-so is the leader of the cult, and he is an identified homosexual and pedophile and a CIA officer. The McMartin case was a ritual abuse allegations by children at the McMartin Preschool, Manhattan Beach, California. The case broke in 1983. The child came home and told his mother that he'd been abused. Other children came forward. There was some publicity. And the long and short of it is that the kids claimed, among other things, that there were tunnels under the school. They claimed that they were taken down into the tunnels and molested, that they were witnessing human sacrifices in the tunnels and elsewhere. They were taken up into a tunnel of the bathroom of the triplex next door, and there was a trap door in the bathroom, taken out in the automobiles, and prostituted in the community. We're talking about 2-, 3-, and 4-year-old children. As they would tell these little 2-, 3-, 4-year-old kids in front, after they would burn the babies or sacrifice the babies or cut them up, we're going to do this to your brother, your sister, your mother, your daddy if you talk. And the one little girl, they took her home, molested her in her own bedroom, left a memento there, took her cat, came back, and sacrificed the cat in front of her and the other kids. And you think that's why the big issue is, well, why don't the children talk? Why don't the children? They don't dare talk. They're scared to death. Main thing is just watch your child closely. That's all. I recommend that that the mothers be the mothers. That's one of the problems in the world today. There's too many mothers leaving their children with somebody else. The preschools are a breeding ground for the satanic activity in many instances. The Virginia McMartin and the McMartin case has traveled all over the world setting up preschools. Dr. Roland Summit, former psychiatrist, UCLA Harbor Hospital, who's been involved in these issues, told me that there are 50 other preschools around the country where the kids talked about tunnels under the school. So the main thing, as I see it, with your children is to watch your children like a hawk. Don't let them out of your sight. I've known of kids who were kidnapped in grocery stores when their parents were shopping in the grocery store. The kids go around the corner, they never see them again. I know a mother who was shopping in the grocery store, and she looked up and this man was carrying her child out the front door. The children are disappearing in this country at the rate of 83 per hour. That's over 700,000 children a year. The Reader's Digest claimed there were 100,000 children disappearing every year. There's another statistic that I find very interesting, and that is that it is estimated 2,500 children are kidnapped and murdered in this country every year. That's an unbelievable figure. Yet, the FBI refuses to investigate it. With all of the publicity, there were 80 children in Omaha came forward and talked about being exposed and ritualistically and sexually victims of this element, this group of people. These were some of the leading businessmen in Omaha. These kids named not only Harold Anderson, but they also named Bob Wadman, chief of police, as being involved in this ring. They named Gene Mahoney, past former vice squad with the Omaha, vice detective with the Omaha Vice Squad, Omaha, Nebraska, and he's now head of the Forestry Service for the state, has a park named after him between Lincoln and Omaha. They named the editor of the society page of the Omaha World Herald. They named the heir to the Brandeis fortune. I mean, these were top citizens, highly respected people in the community. And of these 80 children that came forward, 4 of them gave statements. Of the 4 who gave statements, 2 of them later recanted, probably under pressure. 2 refused to recant, Alicia Owens and Paul Benassi. And actually, what happened with Paul, they feel like they apparently discredited him because he had been convicted of child molestation. Alicia Owens claimed that she had sex with Bob Wadman, chief of police, when she was 14 years old. She told the grand jury that. And as a result, they tried her for perjury before the grand jury, and she was convicted. As far as I'm concerned, I attended the trial, a day of the trial, and it was a kangaroo court. There's no question in my mind. But in talking to Paul Benassi, he told me about the number of times when he and others were taken out of schools, private schools in Omaha, driven by limousine to Sioux City, Iowa, and placed on private jets and flown to Washington, D.C. for sex orgy parties with congressmen and senators. Paul told me and has drawn for me the living quarters of the White House. The public's not allowed in the living quarters of the White House. All the people have been killed, murdered, suicided, or suspiciously dead from the Clinton administration. The number's up to 45 people. The FBI today, in 1996, is being used by the politicians to further their gains and their goals. CIA is, I say the CIA is the most evil organization in the history of the world. They're involved in kidnapping kids. They're involved in the drug operation, international drug trafficking. They're killing people. They're assassinating people. Chip Tatum on my radio show said that he was involved in the takeover of 20 governments around the world where they put a puppet CIA operation in afterwards, including Australia. We put in the government in Australia, and now the Australian government comes out, takes all the guns away because they had that shooting down there with 26 people killed. That's all planned. Let's go in and talk about Satanism. Speaking of Satanism, there are between 50 and 60,000 human sacrifices, according to 3 different sources, in this country every year. Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit-trained professor of canon law, defected from Christianity and embraced the Luciferian ideology while teaching at Ingolstadt University. In 1770, the money lenders who had recently organized the House of Rothschild retained him to revise and modernize the age-old protocols designed to give the Synagogue of Satan ultimate world domination so they can impose the Luciferian ideology upon what remains of the human race after the final social cataclysm by use of satanic despotism. The plan required the destruction of all existing governments and religions. This objective was to be reached by dividing the masses, whom he termed goyim, meaning human cattle, into opposing camps in ever-increasing numbers on political, racial, social, economic, and other issues. The opposing sides were then to be armed, and an incident provided which would cause them to fight and weaken themselves as they destroyed national governments and religious institutions. In 1776, Weishaupt organized the Illuminati to put the plot into execution. The word Illuminati is derived from Lucifer and means holders of the light. Using the lie that his objective was to bring about a one-world government, to enable men with proven mental ability to govern the world, he recruited about 2,000 followers. These included the most intelligent men in the field of arts and letters, education, the sciences, finance, and industry. He then established lodges of the Grand Orient to be their secret headquarters. Weishaupt's revised plan required his Illuminati to do the following things to help them accomplish their purpose. 1. Use monetary and sex bribery to obtain control of people already occupying positions in high places in the various levels of all governments and other fields of human endeavor. Once an influential person had fallen for the lies, deceits, and temptations of the Illuminati, they were to be held in bondage by application of political and other forms of blackmail and threats of financial ruin, public exposure, and physical harm, and even death to themselves and their loved ones. The ultimate world government is the goal. This is the Illuminati/satanic movement in this country today. Americans, for the most part, are oblivious to what's really going on behind the scenes. When I retired, I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea about the Illuminati. I had no idea about Adam Weishaupt. My life's never been the same since. This is all New World Order stuff. This is all Illuminati. There's those people who think there is no conspiracy. So there is a conspiracy. I'm a conspiracy realist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a conspiracy realist. We all have to do everything we can within our power, within our means, based on our training and experience, to do something about what's going on in the world today. We need to wake up America.
We told you what was going to happen, and it did. Now we're telling you what's coming. Band.video.